Hey Phil, welcome.
Hey, Katie.
So I'm really excited to have Phil here with us today. He is one of my best friends and he's an amazing artist. He lives down in Savannah, Georgia.
Wow, thank you.
And what do you say?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Phil, I thought we'd get right to it. You have all your beautiful art up behind you, so we kind of have a sense of your work, but we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Um, I was wondering, did you were you always artistic even as a young kid, or did you discover it like more like in high school? Like when did you kind of realize?
You hear the sirens coming back?
Are there sirens?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, I've always been artistic. It's I even think that's like kind of fuck it, I'm not gonna say that. I'm just yes. The answer is yes. It is like some of my oldest memories are of like consciously making art with markers on paper, but even thinking about it, like being really aware of what I was doing and that like the process was special. I think I have like feelings from that are like pre 4 years old even.
Wow.
I
So
wouldn't say I
like
have a strong memory of it, but I have like a little bit of a memory.
that like sensory experience of like the actual making like art more so than anything else.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a good point. And I think like I can it's like a memory of a memory. It's like when I was maybe around 4 or 5 years old, I remember feeling how special it was to make marks on paper with anything, pen, marker, crayon, and I remember feeling how special that was then, and then thinking about how I had been doing that a lot even before I thought I was doing thought I could like consciously think of what I was doing. So I have this like 4 year old memory of drawing when I was two, and it's like it's just a deep thing. It's a very, very deep experience for me. It's like it's absolutely intertwined with who I am.
Yeah,
100%. Still is in the same way.
I
I'm
think
30. I'm 36.
yeah. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
um I think like that's really interesting what you said about it being like just like making marks that felt really special or exciting to you, because I think like that's where people get kind of stuck, is when they get away from like the actual process or like the enjoyment of like mark making and like that part of it, and when you're too focused on like the outcome
Absolutely.
or other drama surrounding like what it means to be an artist or a professional artist versus an amateur or whatever, that's when things can kind of go south and you can get artist block, and or you could just like feel bad about yourself. And I think it's really important to like maintain that connection of just like what you were describing, like that experience, like that is it is like a childlike experience, I think. And that I think that's why like art making is so powerful, is because you're like tapping into like your inner child. Like you get to be a kid again and like make a mess and like experiment and like do something that's not like productive in like the same way that like sort of our like American lifestyle feels very like productive. Like, oh, gotta go to work, gotta do this, gotta like check off this task. It's more of like a in the moment sort of thing.
That's right. That's right. I mean, for sure. I think you just said it, but even in my own projects, when like I get to outside of enjoying making the paintings, like everything suffers. And the paintings suffer badly. When I'm like, oh no, like I've been doing a lot of narrative stuff lately, and when I do the narratives, Sometimes I'm so concerned about the story adding up and all, that I end up making a pretty lifeless painting because
Yeah.
I've forgotten to enjoy that like first connection with it.
Yeah, like you're overthinking it.
For sure. That happened
Yeah.
with my those paintings I did lately, the rats and statues paintings. With the rats and statues, that started where I was just letting my subconscious go from my head to my hand onto the canvas, and I was like, drew this really nice tactile, gloopy painting that was strongly emotive, really strong emotions in it, and then I noticed there was a story in the imagery. So I made a story that was 10 panels long. And by the 10th panel, the paint was dead. It was no longer hot
Mm.
paint. And we've talked about hot paint before. We both agree.
Yeah.
Like hot paint is paint with urgency
Yeah.
and in life and emotion. And it takes a while to recognize. No, I don't even know if it takes a while to learn about this. I don't think it takes a while to recognize. Like you know what hot paint is, or you know what hot marks are when you are young, but you don't know how to vocalize this sensation. So when I make a painting now that's like full of life and emotion and heat, and it's that layer, I try to leave it if I can. It's hard. It's hard to leave it. Usually it has to, with oil paint, it has to be kind of a stage, a long stage. So, big paintings, they kind of have less hot paint on them because they take longer to make. But like a smaller painting, 1 second,
Sure.
a smaller painting can have like all hot paint because you can
Yeah.
get it
Yeah.
all. You can get it all done at once.
So, yeah, I wanted to ask you about the mermaid paintings, and we'll put up some, we'll overlay some of your paintings while we're talking here so that people
sure.
can see what we're talking about. But I know you have a show in Savannah coming up.
Yeah.
And you can tell us the dates and where that is. But if you can also tell us, like, yeah, I'm curious about what inspired it, your choice to make everything in that greenish palette. And I don't know, yeah, where you got the idea. It's a huge body of work. I know you mentioned too, like that you wanted to print a book. I'm wondering if that is in the works. So why don't you just tell us all about the Mermaid series?
Okay. Yep, I'm having a show the opening is March 4th, 2022. I don't know, it's a video that might last a long time. So let's talk about where we are in time.
Yeah.
March 4th, 22 at Sulphur Studios in Savannah, Georgia, and it'll be up until the 27th of March. And it's a large body of paintings that have a narrative that I kind of want to let you discover for yourself. I don't really want to, with these paintings, I want to provide a lot of like visual evidence and visual incidents or occasions, whatever you want to call them, and then let you create the story in between those happenings. And I really, I want to, as much as possible, show and not tell with this story.
Is there any text or just visuals?
There's titles. And I'm going to give an artist talk on, I think March 12th. I'm going to give an artist talk, which I've like been working on a speech for, which is something I'd really rather not do, but they really want me to do it, and I understand why it's important. But so in this speech, I'm like, I give more clear examples of why I did what I did and what precisely influenced me. But I don't think it's necessary to know that stuff to enjoy the artwork, and I want it that way.
I see.
The paintings are in green, and I hope I say this guy's name right. There's a painter who's become pretty famous lately. His name is Salman Tour. I just was looking at his work pretty closely a few years ago, and it was so amazing the way he used green, kind of like an emerald green, and it just inspired me to try that, because in my work before that, and even still nowadays, my palettes can get a little too all over the place, and it's something that I've wanted to do, is have a more unified palette. And when I saw his paintings, I was like, holy smokes, they're so powerful. Less is so much more. So it inspired me just to try messing around with monochromes. And I made this monochrome. I had made a painting of me and my ex in a canoe, and there was a green mermaid in the water swimming with us. And because I do stuff like that in my paintings, as you know, lots of creatures. And I was like, oh man, that green mermaid's so beautiful. I want to paint that green mermaid and maybe her friend in a lagoon somewhere. So I painted the mermaids in a little lagoon area using a monochrome palette, just Viridian Green Hue, Viridian Hue by Winton, Lemon Yellow by Winsor Newton, and also Titanium White. So
That's
all of the paintings are only 3 colors.
Wow.
Made with those 3 colors. And yeah, I think it's also, when I'm talking about inspiration, I think it's really important to also talk about the narrative aspect of the work, how it's like a sequential art. It consists of many images in a row. And that was inspired by an Instagram famous artist. I guess Salman Tor, maybe Instagram really helped him become famous, but Instagram especially helped this other artist named Polly Noor become famous. And she does these amazing sequential pieces. I think they're digital art, but I liked how one image could be released maybe every day, or maybe one image a week, every few days. It kept people interested in that person's art. It allowed for the artist to make a deeper story. And that was really nice, because so much of social media and art on social media, it's like you're scrolling and it's like, what can get your attention for like 1 second? What can even get your attention for like 2 seconds? And with these stories that made people keep having to come back to them, people keep having to come back to these stories and reinvestigate them and retrace the events in the stories. It gives people, it kind of like reintroduces like a longer sensation back into art for viewers, in my opinion, and like more sophisticated stories, because you're just scrolling, or however some people invert their scroll, right? Some people like to scroll down and scroll down, some people scroll up and they scroll, I don't know. So like I might be like pissing people off with the way I scroll. I don't even know actually at this point, but
Well, I've caught myself where I follow a lot of art pages that post paintings that inspire me, and sometimes I'll just like scroll, I'll like look at something for like 1 second, and even though I like it, I like will start scrolling again, and I'm like, wait, what am I doing?
You like it? You give it a heart?
Yeah, I'll give it a heart, and then I'll like it's because it's like habit, or it's like the way those apps work.
You think about that shit, you're like 1 second heart, 1 second heart. It's like,
yeah,
whoa.
So I'll catch myself doing that, and I'll be like, wait, I want to look at that painting longer, and I'll go back and I'll like look at it. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, these apps are like a little bit, I have issues with them, but it is a good place to find new art, I think, Instagram.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you have to be like kind of intentional about how you use it, I think. But that's interesting.
I hope I answered your question, like why green and what's it
Yeah,
about
yeah.
and stuff. Did I miss anything? What was the original
Well, I'm just
question?
curious about the book.
The book. Yeah, so the book, it's I wanted to make something that was like affordable for visitors to the show. It's not that my paintings are crazy expensive. You know, they cost less than an NFT, but think about that. But
Can you say how ridiculous it is that a digital copy of art is more expensive than the actual art? And then you're supposed to burn it? I don't know. I can't get behind that.
well, that's one technique. I mean, some NFTs are just there is no physical art, and some of them are just randomly generated elements, like computer AI. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you can have a monkey, you'll have like a monkey figure, and then you'll draw all these different things like hats and sunglasses and guitars, and the computer will just randomly make more monkey paintings for you. And that's, I guess, there's so many ways to do NFTs, and the successful ones are all more expensive than my paintings. So
Okay.
if you want to invest in something real that somebody has spent years of their life on, like, here's a chance, you know? Boom. And I'm making a book.
Yeah.
I want there to be a book with all the images. That's something that people can take home and afford. And that's kind of been my art process for the last few years anyways, is really selling reproductions of my work. Because I mean, again, my paintings aren't expensive, but as it is, most people can't afford even like $100 painting, $200 painting.
The only thing I thought else we could talk about if you want to is like the balance between like making art that's more expressive versus art that is you know, that you're selling, or that feels more commercial, like commissions and like the kind of stuff you sell at the park. And
It's a great question. Yeah, so it's probably one of the biggest hurdles in my life as an artist was like compromising on what I make. So, you know, it was not that long ago that I was unemployed and just like wandering around. I was totally dissatisfied with all the things that I had tried to do in life, including be an artist, because I had wanted to. I recognized that I had painting ability. I definitely recognized that I had ability, but I didn't like the options that I had for what to paint, and I sort of by chance, by accident, figured out how to make art for tourists that I enjoy making. I make this kind of art and I sell it in the park. It's like Pokemon doing crazy stuff. And lots of cats doing stuff. But they're kind of fun to make. And I'm really lucky that I live in a place where you can sell your artwork outside. I think that's also an important. So it's like I'd make a good painting and then I make a reproduction of it. So when I go to work, I'm just selling these reproductions. Like I'm not just like chained to my easel painting cats drinking wine over and over again. I can sell these reproductions, so I don't have to do that. And even still, when I'm out there, I'm usually painting a cat painting, but that gave me time to be able to it gave me a job making art. So I'm already like, all my painting muscles are already warmed up, and I would just come home, maybe after going to work, and I don't work for that long or that many days, which is also nice. And I would just work on my mermaid paintings. And then COVID, so I had made like 29 paintings or something, and then COVID happened, and I had a lot more time to work on stuff. Okay. And
that was like the one thing I wanted to talk about before we end, was that, because it kind of happened, you know, we've been friends for a long time. We used to paint together. In fact, I'll put up a better image, but that big painting right there, Phil and I painted together. And then we both got artist block at like the same time for a number of years.
mm-hmm.
You came out of it before I did, but do you want to talk a little bit about like, I don't know, do you have a sense of like why that happened for you, and like how you got out of it, or what you do now to like stay connected to your art so that doesn't happen again?
For sure. Yeah, so I quit trying to be an artist or work in the art world, and I had switched to farming, and I was living on farms and working on farms, or kind of like farming related things. I worked at a farm school, for example. Spent a lot of time studying permaculture, you know, not maybe, what do you call that? Interning, you know, so I lost my train of thought. I was in that profession, and I made so little money, and I was just like, what in the hell is going on? Like, I've never made any money in my life. I'm just this like weird painter farmer guy that like I looked so crazy. Homeless people used to come up to me and try to give me food, you know. My friends make fun of me because that happened in front of them. And I was so fed up. I had this great girlfriend too, but I just couldn't like pull my shit together. Couldn't do it. And I just realized, and I knew I had this painting ability. I was really fed up with farming, working on farms. And I just thought to myself, I could probably sit in the park and draw Pikachu and sell pictures of Pikachu and make more money than I'm making now. And I was 100% right about that. And so I just started going to the park and just like enjoying painting again, just enjoying the simple, beautiful sensation of making pictures, and people like them. Obviously I'm really lucky because I have had a lot of art training. So I know, and I know to pay attention to what people like. So just kind of like pay attention to what people like and just go in that direction. And I just have a lot of experience making paintings. So maybe somebody who's never trained as an artist and doesn't have this like childhood connection to making marks, being an integral part of them, like this is going to be harder for them to do, to just go to a park bench and just draw Pikachu. You know, like when I say that, it sounds so simple, but that's not.
Well, you went to SCAD, and
yeah,
I mean, did a lot of, yeah, dude.
Even before SCAD, when I was a young child, my parents, my grandmother was a painter, an oil painter. My parents enrolled me in every single kind of art class you could take from a very young age. I'm not even just talking about like drawing and painting. I mean like ceramics, dance, music, and then in high school, I only took art majors, and then I went to arts college for art. So yeah, it's like a huge investment in life. So obviously easier for me to just go paint Pikachu. But I started doing that, and just I think the world had also changed. I think this is also important. It's so much easier to share your artwork now
Yeah.
with social media. Even though when we were in college, which I graduated from college in 2009, so there was Facebook, for sure. Facebook had started in like 2005 or 2004, something like that. So
Yeah.
I was
But it was
able to,
still just like there
oh,
wasn't much going on with it, I don't think.
Wild West.
Yeah. I don't know if this is true for you, but I think for me, like part of it, like when we were painting together and trying to make it as artists in our 20s, I wasn't very like business minded and I was afraid of selling actually.
Yeah.
So like now I will like post a painting on Facebook and I'll actually write the price. And like this is still kind of hard for me to do that a little bit, but like, it's a vulnerable thing. But I don't know, like before I remember like someone asking to buy my work and I just like didn't even give the person a price and was like, I don't know. Like it was like so it was just like I was so afraid of selling and you kind of have to get over that. And artists are not like it's not necessarily not to like say all artists are this way, but like a lot of people they're like I just want to make my work and I just want it to sell, but I don't really want to have to deal with that selling part. And you kind of have to like just get over it and like learn how to do it.
Yeah, I would say that what's really important there is to just believe in yourself. It's really easy to undervalue yourself. So, if one of your paintings is worth something, worth a price that's not that crazy, and just stand by it. And if okay, somebody's going to come up to you and they're going to be like, oh, I love that painting. How much is that painting? You say $100. It's not even that much money. It's a good little chunk of change. It's a little scratch. You're like, oh, it's $100, that painting. And so somebody might be like, oh, no, it's too much. And they'll walk away from you. And that's totally fine. Don't let that discourage you and so you lower your price, so that if the next person comes up to you and they ask for the same painting and you're like, oh, it's $50, and then they're like, okay, but if you had just been a little bit more patient, you'll get that $100 for sure, because you get into this like crazy kind of mode of just giving your stuff away. If you're not being compensated for your work, you're not going to have a life. To figure out how much your paintings should cost is kind of thinking about how big they are, the venue you're selling them in, but really the amount of time it took you to make it is really crucial in figuring out how much something should cost, and also the materials that you put into it, and then just believing in yourself and believing that your work is good and worth it. And then once you start selling your paintings, you just believe in yourself more and more.
Yeah, it's like a positive.
More to say about that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it is like a positive feedback loop. And I think it's true. Like people just value different things, and like you can't decide the value of your work based on like one person's opinion. No. And sometimes it can go the other way too. Like my mother, her boyfriend is a painter. Right. He had his painting, I think it was priced at like $900. And it was up on a wall in a restaurant in a town, Concord, which is like, it's an upscale town, like wealthy people live there. And the painting didn't sell for a whole year. He changed, I think it was like, either the restaurant owner or a friend or somebody encouraged him to change the price to like 2,000 or like 2,500, like more, like doubled the, the price, increased it, and then it sold. And that can happen. It's an interesting thing, is like you can, and this isn't just in painting, it's in other industries too, but like there's a middle range that you can get stuck in where you seem too expensive to like people who don't have enough money, and then you seem too cheap to people who do have money. So it's, sometimes it's just like experimenting with your prices, and also just like I partly tell that story just because I think it illustrates just the fact that like you're there's no like, you can decide what the value of your work is, and like you said earlier, Phil, like you can sell it for whatever price you want if you're a little bit patient. But obviously being mindful of the venue, what type of people are going there, and all of that can help help you be more successful, for sure.
It's really
Feels like maybe I should up my prices.
Oh, I think that all the time. But so one of the things I have to say is that I can really only talk with like authority from my experience.
Yeah.
For the most part, I sell artwork off of a park bench in the park in Savannah. So it's like the art I'm making out there is like catered to that experience at this point. So tourists come to Savannah, they walk through the park, they see my paintings, and it's like they want to buy a painting that catches their attention. They want to look at paintings that catch their attention right away and bring them over, and they just want to buy something then and there and keep going. So like even though I do think my paintings could maybe even sell for more, I've kind of like figured out what is like the most I can get for like each size of painting I have available, and like also what is it a picture of.
Right.
And somebody came by my bench the other day and said the most amazing thing to me. I think he was like studying business or something. And this is why artists need to collaborate with other types of people. He had said he's been paying attention to me, and he said he had noticed that I had created my own audience or something. It was like exploded my mind. I was like, it is kind of true. Like by doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, you have a niche.
Yeah, like I know what's going to pull a tourist over. I know, generally speaking, how much they're going to be willing to spend and on what.
Yeah, and that's, something you learn from experience. Like you've been out there for a few years now. Every week.
Working on farms made me a lot better at selling stuff outside to people I don't know. Like doing farmers markets. It's like when you come out of art school, you're such a, like, I don't know how else to say it. You're like so full of yourself, even if you don't want to be. They've literally trained you to be. They've trained,
And then they haven't told you at all about how to sell your work or how to market it or anything.
So you need humility. You need to like, and some people like me needed to learn humility, and that was really tough. Like, I see a lot of young kids. So I still live in Savannah, right? And there's all these art students around all the time, and a lot of them recognize me now as like an artist, a professional artist. They want to come up and talk to me, and they talk about what it's like going through school, and I'm like, yeah, that's like and how hard it is. I'm like, that's called growing pain. That shit's real. Real.
Well, I'm glad that you figured it out, and that you found your place in Savannah where you can like be painting again. And I'm excited about the Mermaid show. I really hope I'm able to come see it, but I'll definitely put up some info about that. Maybe someone watching this is down in Savannah, or maybe they're gonna go visit. It'll be beautiful weather in March.
Yeah, I hope everybody can come see the work because the floor is really squeaky there. I hope everybody can come see it that wants to. You'll be able to see all the work online. I know Sulphur Studios is gonna have like an online store where you can look at all the work and buy it if you want. Yeah, it's this mercat.
Oh, I love the mercat. He's so cute.
I bring this to the park, and the digital screen takes, even though this looks cool on the screen, but the digital screen does take something away from the actual colors. So I do think it's going to be a little bit of a wild experience to go when we do get that gallery all set up, with all those green paintings in there and nothing else. I think it's going to be a visual treat. I know that because I had them all, the 50 paintings at one point hung up in my studio in my relatively small space, that it was like an insane chapel in here, because there's lots of figures and characters in paintings, and like it's repetitive and calm, and it kind of just, and I have this like vaulted room that I work in, and it kind of was like this weird green chapel you could come in, and having the paintings here and now not having them here, I know that power of that color is real, the way it makes you feel. So it'll be kind of like it'll be your last chance really to see them all together. I'm sure that some of them are gonna sell because they're friendly prices, like I want to sell them, move on.
Cool.
Whatever.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, Phil. I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. And it was awesome talking to you today.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me on, and I hope I gave you enough good stuff to use.